Hi everyone, this is Yasmeen. I'm going to be talking about discussion board number 8. This is regarding influenza, nursing, and World War I. I will start out by apologizing for my voice once again. I'm still recovering from a cold, and so my voice doesn't sound the best, but we're going to get through it. So this week's prompt reads as Mark Honigsbaum, Nurses Felt Like Nine Pins, Death and Bravery in the 1918 Flu Pandemic, The Observer, gives you a different view from Chapter 7 in our textbook regarding the major health crises of the early 20th century, the Spanish influenza. Use both the book and Honigsbaum's brief essay to describe the role of nurses during this international public crisis. So after reading the article, I really enjoyed that Honigsbaum relates and kind of compares the flu pandemic to the current or the previous COVID-19 pandemic, just to make it more relatable and kind of give the readers something to relate the influenza to. So going into my discussion post, the Spanish influenza is known as one of the major health crises of the 20th century, much like today's COVID-19 pandemic. Much like the nurses of today, nurses of the early 1900s dealt with patients suffering from pneumonia in conjunction with the Spanish flu. So that essentially created an intense respiratory condition where patients suffered from hypoxia, choking on their own secretions, aspiration, which led to confusion, hospital-induced delirium. So, the flu in combination with the pneumonia created a very, very severe illness for these patients. So the difference between now and then is that they did not have antibiotics, any antiviral medication or vaccines at the time, meaning that these nurses were simply doing symptom management. They were just essentially lessening the symptoms, trying to create comfort for these patients. Honigsbaum mentions how nurses fought like Trojans to keep patients fed and scramble as best they could through the most elementary nursing to keep the delirious in bed. So I don't know about you guys, but the floor that I work on, this happens often where patients sundowns, they become more delirious, and it feels like your whole shift you're just going back and forth trying to keep these patients in bed. So I like that Honigsbaum mentions this because this is a very relatable scenario for nurses. Moving on, Spanish influenza proved to be just as deadly to the nursing staff as it was to the patients. So again, this is like COVID-19. Not only are nurses caring for these severely ill patients, in the process, they are also getting sick. They are also suffering. A lot of nurses died in this time. A lot of nurses and healthcare workers during the COVID-19 pandemic also died. So this is a very intense and large-scale suffering through this pandemic. So one of the major things was that at the time, PPE was not as enforced, nor was it as foolproof as it is today. Not to say that PPE is 100%. It's gonna you will never get sick, but it does a good job at keeping us as frontline healthcare workers safe. At this time, nurses were falling ill, and next thing you know, nurses were caring for their own coworkers. So lint masks were recommended, nurses were encouraged to maintain distance from their coworkers. However, many nurses refused to wear the masks. They felt it was disrespectful and may cause distress to their colleagues who had fallen ill, and so they would just go in the room and care for their colleagues without a mask. At this time, many nurses unfortunately passed away due to the new strain of influenza because they work so closely with the ill. This is very similar to today's coronavirus pandemic, as we lost many nurses and healthcare workers to the deadly virus. I really enjoyed reading this as it was kind of a sobering reminder of the travesties that nurses went through in the past, and how much we've learned from those experiences and how much we still have to learn moving forward. Thank you.